Double, double, toil, trouble. Something wicked this way comes. Do I mean this episode of Docky Who, or do I mean today's guest? Hello, Michel.
Hi, everybody. I forgot that they give up on cold opens this series. I completely forgot about that.
For better or for worse?
The only bad thing about this series, I would say.
Oh, hey, that's, sarcastic?
I have not rewatched this in so long. I challenged Samuel to do something fun for this, which was read the novelization. The novelization of Witchfinders came out before we watched this, and I was reading and I was like, oh, I really like this episode.
The book is good, it's great. It made me warm up to a story I hated on broadcast. But I think you might be shocked by just how little of that makes it to screen. That's fine, we can have a book club.
It really just starts, huh? I forgot how the series is like, we're just gonna start.
It's got all the added runtime, but it doesn't really make use of it. It throws you in, and then it still ends awkwardly.
Yeah.
Pretty much every episode this season. And I like this season these days.
Look at that. Who could that be?
Could it be the only good guest star the Doctor Who's gotten in years?
I love Alan Cumming so much. I feel like Alan Cumming could read me the dictionary, and I'd be like, yeah, can you read the phone book next?
Alan Cumming he's probably my first exposure to... I'm not sure if the man is gay, but all of his characters are.
Yeah.
I can't trust him, though, because between Spy Kids 1 and Son of the Mask, oh my god, he scares me.
Spy Kids 1, a hallmark in traumatize your kids.
It's shocking to me that it took this long for Alan Cummings to get into Doctor Who.
Right.
Alan Cummings should have been here since day one. He should have been the first Doctor, probably.
I co-host a Doctor Who podcast with a friend called Potter Who Cast, and we just started talking a while back, and we came up with this entire like alternate universe of like, what if Doctor Who was made in the US? We literally came up with like 13 actors, production staff, like behind the scenes controversies.
Oh my word.
We just
That's
went
thorough.
insane. Here's what I like about this episode a lot, and I feel like we should put this out. When they announced, oh, the next Doctor is going to be a woman, I generally thought for a moment they're going to do that thing where it's like, we're just going to give a female actor the part and then not do anything with it.
Series 11 does small little touches, and then the Witchfinders.
Yeah, Witchfinders is the first episode where I'm like, of course, like this is perfect for a female doctor. Like, have a story set in the witch hunt.
I find it tricky. I've put in too much thought into this, even though I have my problems with this story in general, and even the idea of it. We'll get into that. I've got plenty of problems with the premise. You've got to have a female doctor in this situation eventually, don't you?
Right.
You got it, because otherwise,
Yeah, you do.
The show is guilty of either then ignoring it or having the doctor be special, and that's not good. You can't.
Right.
I'm impervious to sexism of the past. No.
In fact, here we go. First part from the novelization that I want to mention, when King James sees Witchfinder assistant in the psychic paper. The doctor's internal monologue says, "It wasn't until then that the doctor grasped the gravity of what was happening here. In a few words, she'd gone from being cheesed off at the stupidity of 17th century sexism to truly understanding the risks of this new body she inhabited. That it didn't just bring new obstacles. It could very easily get her killed if she wasn't careful." Like, that kind of stuff is cool as shit. Like, I feel like...
I was going to bring up the exact same thing. The novel expands on it, and because the novel has the luxury of getting inside her head, she's genuinely scared in this story.
It's new for her. It's new for the character, which is like, this is exciting. This is what I wanted it. And I can't just do the pretty speech and win the situation like I could before. This is a different situation. It calls for a different kind of tools.
It's almost obligatory, this episode, I've got to say. That doesn't mean it's bad in any sense. It is bad. But no, I think the TV version plays off for comedy too much. But the book, she's feeling the exact same subjugation that every woman of this era is feeling.
Mm-hmm.
When you said, of course, we've done our homework, we've done our reading with the novelization, I went ahead and did just a little bit more homework.
Oh, really?
I also picked up the first Doctor novel, The Witch Hunters.
Oh.
It's basically The Crucible, but with the Doctor and Company put in there as well.
Oh, shit. I actually kind of want to read that.
It's much grimmer than this, and a lot better than this in some ways. The reason why the story doesn't win me over even before it starts is because I've just seen this before. And I know the average audience goer isn't me, but The Witch Hunters, Ghost Walk, The Witch from the Well, Ashilda has involvement in the witch trials. I've seen Doctor Who do this territory before.
I feel like the pitch they went with is here. Like, it's what if we get somebody big to be King James and posit King James as like this opposing force to the Doctor?
Yeah, purposely overshadow your main character by casting a huge name. And that way, him stealing every scene he's in is also intentional? Yeah, I buy that.
Can I ask, do people hate The Haunting of Villa Duodati?
No, it's just me.
Okay, because I'm asking because I remember watching it and being like, I like this.
Oh my god, thank you for not bringing Villa Diodati today. The kiddie gloves would come off, Michel. If anything that Chip and Weir has done right, it's the historicals. He's made them all so exciting. History that isn't taught in schools, maybe.
I hate to be this guy.
Do it.
I don't like Rosa. I don't like Rosa because I feel like it shows to me what the true last barrier of Doctor Who is, and that's race. Race has never been a topic the show has handled well, and in Rosa I felt that a lot because I was watching that and I was like, it just feels like a white person lecturing me about why Rosa Parks was important, and it's like, I don't need that.
And that's why it's a weird premise. What is a British neoliberal perspective on it worth?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like we get Demons of Punjab, which is great. It's like as Doctor Who continues and expands, it's gonna deal with these situations that it just wasn't built to deal with. And I feel like Rosa was kind of them stumbling. So to me, it's like I admire that they try to do Rosa.
That's the wackiest premise for a Doctor Who episode ever. And this is, I'd say, probably the least wacky premise for a Doctor Who episode ever. This is so unbelievably safe to me.
Yeah.
And that's bizarre because it's the witch trials. It's women, real women being drowned for no reason. And It just feels so safe, a well-trodden road. I'd like to give the episode the benefit of the doubt and say something along the lines of, oh, the Moraks are like a metaphorical embodiment of all this resentment and build. But you just can't say that.
Right.
Because when that third act does creep up on you, give you absolute whiplash, those final 20 minutes where the monsters are just roaming around is just nut. It's just totally disconnected.
I just want to read this kind of things. It's really good. Never in all her incarnations could the Doctor ever recall experiencing such absolute certainty, unhindered by lack of evidence or rigorous questioning. Even the Doctor's belief in love and hope and all that good stuff was inherently riven with doubt. That's why it required faith. But not Becca's kind of blind faith. The day the Doctor stopped asking questions will likely be the day she ceased to regenerate. I love that line so much. You're making me fall in love with Doctor Who books.
Here's one more for you. The Witch Hunters, let's not get mixed up, the first Doctor book, has a really interesting relationship where it's basically, even though it's one of the darkest Doctor Who stories I've ever read, it's a Scooby-Doo story. It's Zombie Island, where you're constantly, all the characters are succumbing to the paranoia, and even as a reader, you're starting to think, this show is beyond magic, it's too good for magic. Does evil exist? All of the gang, Doctor included, start believing in evil, and evil having a physical force. So now you're talking about faith. And it's like, oh my word, I did not expect this from Doctor Who and his granddaughter. And then I come back to Witchfinders, and it's not really there. But that's me comparing.
No, I actually do think reading it gave me a deeper appreciation for Jodie's performance here. The novel isn't coming up with this out of nowhere. The novel is just finding these things in what's already there.
I think it's neutered. I think that it's the bones of the story Joy Wilkinson wanted to tell.
This is the moment to me where Yaz justified her being a companion.
Yes, we're having all the same points here. Yeah, no, her being a cop, they actually go into her entire reason for being on the TARDIS, which is she shares a kindred hatred of bullies, and she doesn't want people to feel like that.
Yeah.
That one line gave more justification to a character than this entire season, which is a tragedy.
Do you subscribe to the theory that maybe starting off with 3 companions was not a good idea for 13?
Not really. Maybe if they just made one of them a focus, maybe if Ryan had more character beats, not just in his first and last episodes. I don't think with this set of writers, in this format, you're going to do all 3 characters justice at all times. It's just not going to happen. Mm-hmm. But I find them all really fun presences. I wouldn't get rid of any of them in Series 11 because I wouldn't know which one to pick. I love Ryan. Manjit Jill is a joy. And Yaz has gotten good, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Who the hell's going to get rid of Graham? Bradley Walsh is a gem.
Can I just say, I relate a lot to whenever 13 is like, I don't know if this is the right emotion for the moment. Like,
I can't tell you off the top of my head. I can't think of another anxious hero where one of their main characteristics is I can't really handle this situation very well, whether it's a physical threat or just helping friends. Some people even think that she's coded as autistic.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I go that far. It's way different from 12 or 11 social awkwardness. 12 was above it. He looked down on it because he only saw the worst in little polite humanisms. 13 actively cannot perform them, which really lands her in trouble in the Witchfinders. That episode we're definitely both watching.
I love Graham with the hat.
The hat might be my favourite part of the story. Although, okay, now I'm going to complain about the hat. Wow, check me out, Sam. Is there something wrong with putting on the fun little costume, wearing the fun little Witchfinder general hat, when that is a really sordid item of clothing in history? Come on, Graham, we're gonna put on your Nazi uniform. There's an element of fun dress up to this that rubs me the wrong way.
Because this is my problem. I can buy that this is the biggest ever witch hunt in England. Or I can buy it's an alien mud invasion. But both on the same day, I can't buy that.
This is the same day that there's an alien invasion and like a thematically connected series of human events.
Like that isn't her life.
I like that.
Like that isn't her entire life. The comparison to bullying is actually quite clever. It's an oversimplification, but it's a great way to explain this mass hysteria to kids. Keep your head down. Anybody who's different is wrong. He who points the finger first will have the most power.
Yeah.
As someone who got really into the Crucible and a bunch of witch stuff lately,
Right.
That's pretty much it. That's pretty apt.
King James is not being influenced by an evil alien. King James here in this scene, which I do like, where he explains why he's mistrusting everyone. Like, it's human. It all becomes human. My problem becomes when you have like fantasy reasons for human things. I like it when you have human things and the human things complement the fantasy.
I think it's a superficial opportunity, at least, with the Morax, because the imagery is what speaks for it. And at the same time, it seems too good not to do, doesn't it? The Witch Trials invites paranormal stories.
Yeah.
So it's a weird catch-22.
I've been rewatching a lot of clips from Capaldi and Smith, and there's always that one person in the comments is like, yeah, Whittaker could never do this. And it's like, motherfucker, here she is doing it right now. Like, I know because we're all the same, we want certainty, security to believe that people are evil or heroic, but that's not how people are. Like, that line is amazing. Like, you want to know the secrets of existence? Start with the mysteries of the heart. I love it. Like,
yeah, it's intimate and it's personal and it's overtly feminine.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to grandstand, make some big paternal speech with his dick swinging about. Sorry, Mr. Capaldi. The Doctor delivering a massive, authoritative Pandorica speech isn't going to help in this story. Sure, Capaldi monologues are some of my favourite parts of the show, but that's not what I want for this Doctor. When she did, we got Villa Diodati, and... sorry.
Why would you want her to do this? There is no other work of fiction in television or in movies that has something as regeneration. It has a tool where every 5 or so years the show reinvents itself and someone gets to take on this character. Why would you want them all to do the same thing?
Although she's forceful in this story, she's still fairly passive. Some people say that's a criticism of this Doctor. Like we said earlier, if she is so authoritative that like sexism of the time doesn't apply to her, that implies that there were countless strong women through history who weren't powerful, who didn't stand up to it.
The idea that the Doctor is getting to King James. If you were to write the story, there's a version of the story where King James is like, ha 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 ha, I hate witches. I will never listen to the Doctor because she's a woman and has boobs. Where here, they're willing to portray him as like somebody who's willing to listen and to at least understand.
Look, man, you know I want to agree with you, writer to writer, but how many innocent women in history did King James kill? Why is he a sympathetic figure?
Yeah, this is the moment where I think, up until here, I would give this maybe an A-, B+. Like,
And then Whiplash. Sometimes I feel about third acts, and this is quite unprofessional coming from a writing student, is that if the third act is bad, The first 2 acts weren't necessarily good. They hadn't pulled the rug out from underneath you yet.
The novel expends a lot on the people that Becca has killed before, including Willa's grandmother, Annie Clay, who doesn't even get mentioned, I realized.
Is Annie not one of these characters? Annie is massive in the book.
And she kills her own mom. Like, she doesn't know it, but Annie Clay is like her mom in the story.
And we just got that in a flashback. We got that in one 10-second flashback. That's a letdown. Oh my god, the Annie character is the core of the story, in my opinion. It was how she believed she genuinely was a witch, and so she was convinced that everything that was happening around her was her fault, even though she was the most obvious of history's victims ever. That is the core of the story.
Their only crime was just being a little bit different, and it sets up what I think is a very, very good part of the book, which is the final 2 chapters.
We're doing it. Let's do it.
Throughout the book, you get these chapters where they're written from Willa's perspective, but it's an older Willa, and she's asking the doctor to help her because she's been imprisoned and she's going to be executed. And at the end of the book, it's revealed that Willa, after the story, she went on to be like a traveling nurse. And then one day, somebody accused her of witchcraft, and she pretty much says that it was a guy who had a fever and who also tried to kiss her without her consent. She writes a letter, and the doctor saves her right before she gets executed, and drops her off with Clara and a shooter. Like, Willa Twinston is hanging out with Clara and a shooter at the end of the universe. And I was like, that is really cool, but also, wow, that came out of nowhere.
Lesbians hanging out in space. And they, for some reason, have decided they are now the 3 Norns of Norse mythology?
Yeah. I got that as to be like a reference to the 3 witches from
Macbeth.
Yeah.
In my head right now, I'm trying to make the Morax work as a final threat. I'm trying to find a way to like them, because I always try.
The book makes it. The book makes it happen.
But on screen, maybe there's something to the idea that, like, the memory of these victims have been made a mockery of. So, of course, having reanimated, disgusting corpses going around, getting revenge is, I don't know, something. But it's when the Morax are like characters of their own, I'm not there. This was the time in the show's history for pure historicals to come back.
Let's wrap this up because there's 5 minutes left. And I'm like, wait, but you don't have a cold open, so.
This is my big problem with the Witchfinders. It keeps threatening to become more interesting. James almost turns all the way. The threat almost goes unexplained. But then it just settles into the safest status quo.
Yeah.
There's specifically a line which is, "Oi, behave yourself, otherwise I won't save you from Guy Fawkes." And then, Graham rightfully calls her up on, "Right, can we go back and save Grace now then?"
I'm really disappointed because that was my favorite part of the book.
Oh, really? My favourite part was when the Doctor told Yaz about the events of Trial of a Time Lord for 3 entire pages.
Read up The Witchfinders by Joey Wilkinson. I think she did a fantastic job.
And then The Witch Hunters, just to confuse yourself even more about what actually happened in all of these stories. Like I've been trying to remember. I was like, did they go and see The Crucible in 1954 on stage? And I'm like, nah, that was the other book, Sam. Did Ryan get locked up in a cellar for 5 months in torture and dirt and agony and want to be out of his misery? No, that was Ian.
No, for real, it's like, I'm really glad that I challenged you to read this novelization because it has given me like a newfound appreciation for 13.
All you had to do to see the best in 13 was find a story where she's written by someone else. And that sounds like hate, but it's actually not, because most of 13 stories are written by someone else.
It seems as if they had gone pure historical,
it would at least be a direction. That's a direction.
I think things would be different.
Anyway, thank you for joining me. Where can people find you, Michel?
You can find me on Twitter at Michel Lichand. If you want to hear me talk about Fullmetal Alchemist, I run a podcast called Fullmetal Analysts. Samuel has been in 2 episodes of it.
And for Doctor Who, he also is a co-host on the Pod to Who podcast, where I'm sure I'll wind up eventually. Thank you for spending time with us on this Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Enjoy the new Who, everybody.